sociologist at Ohio State University. I'm in the last year of my PhD program. And my primary area of study, yes, is race, religion, and organizations. So I do a ton of helping organizations look at issues of equity, mostly race, but sometimes also gender and class, and helping people see some of these socio-historic forces that cause us to not treat each other as equitably as we could and figure out how to move forward. So that's really my passion area. Before I came to the PhD program, which I've been in for 5 years, I spent probably the prior 8 to 10 years to that working in churches on those sorts of things. And then I realized there's still a lot more research to be done. I also, alongside my husband, am church planting. So we're planting a 21st century church in Cincinnati, Ohio. And our church has 3 main pillars. One is apostolic teams, so bringing in all of the different variety of gifts that people have and making sure that those sit on teams so that we're not just all one thing or another. Another pillar is communities and really being embedded and involved in the community around us, because a lot of folks will never walk in a church again, and that's okay. They should be able to find relationships and have a place to belong. And then the third one, which is very relevant to our conversation tonight, is love and unity. And by love and unity, we mean that we actively seek to combat any form of bias that positions one person or group above another. So really trying to model organizationally what that looks like, and how do you live into that as a community. So those are my basics. I've been married for 17 years. I have a 10-year-old daughter.
I'm really interested. I know for years there's been so much going on, and people, especially white people, we've kind of glazed over a lot of things. And at this moment, even though we've had other situations, certainly like Rodney King and some other high profile incidents, is there anything in 2020 that is shifting, obviously not your perspective, that's not the right word, but is there anything that is changing the way you are conversing with people or changing the message that you're bringing? What has all of this done over the last month or so?
Oh, that's a great question, Rachel. I think what has happened over the past month or so is it's been hopeful and encouraging to see so many people get newly involved and interested in issues of racial equity and police brutality, and understanding, where we've been at in this country for, 401 years now. And so part of it has been very hopeful in terms of seeing new people come to the table. The funny thing is that has had, in some ways, an opposite effect for a lot of people of color I know who have been in this space for a while, which is, okay, we no longer want to pull punches. And that doesn't mean don't be gracious. That doesn't mean don't be gentle. But what it does mean is recognizing the seriousness of the inequities we've been living with, and no longer being able to wink at them or want to coexist with them. And I think the fact that this emerged in the middle of a global pandemic really opened the space for us to already be questioning our systems and our world, and is this the kind of world that I want to live in? And then on top of that, seeing the murder of George Floyd, people answered with a resounding no. And so that has given me courage to just say, I'm gonna call it like it is now. And that is going to be a different feeling moving forward. Somebody noted, this month or soon here would have been Tamir Rice's 18th birthday, and he was 12 when he was killed by police playing with a toy gun in the park. And the fact that 6 years ago we had to have conversations and still people were saying a 12-year-old's own murder was his own fault. The fact that we would blame a child for their own murder, I'm not going to have that conversation anymore. And I think that's the right thing. And I think that's a good thing as we move forward.
So I said that's really awesome, and I'm glad to hear your perspective because I am so curious as to how this is affecting people in the Black community, and because obviously my perspective is different from yours, and you've lived in this all of your life, and it's yeah, I was telling someone else, like, I wasn't raised this way. And so, like, I've really had to challenge myself to take a hard look. And so, in some ways, it's like I am seeing these issues for the first time. Not the first time, but you know what I mean? Like, really forcing myself to take a hard look at my own biases and prejudices. And you even mentioned before, it's not always color, it can be socioeconomic and so many other things. But we did have a few questions come in that people who even aren't on the call were able to send in. But before I get to those, I just thought I would give you an opportunity if there's something that you feel like you want to communicate to each group that you have the opportunity to talk to like this, or something that will be on video that gets shared, you know, hopefully to quite a few people. If there's anything you want to say, please feel free to do that first.
I think I will repeat the same thing that I've been saying for about a month now. There comes a point where, we don't want to go back to normal, to the same old, because normal was just what we had learned to live with. It was not good. It was not equitable. It was not just. And so I'm hoping that, as we continue to go through these conversations, as you continue to have conversations and read new books and engage in new experiences, that people walk away with the childlikeness to dream and to believe that we can live in a better world, that's not just some Pollyanna unrealistic sentiment, but it's an option that's available to us right here and right now. The only thing that would prevent that is if we choose not to believe that, and choose not to believe how hard it is, because there's lots of, as much sense as it makes to say, yes, we want to live in a more equitable world, that means that change comes. And for people who are already the winners, change is difficult, because that means you have to be willing to give up something. So being childlike enough to believe that it's possible, and then having open hands enough to say, I'm willing to give up something to see the future that I imagine.
That is definitely the hard part. Oh, I have to give up something and I have to be uncomfortable. Ew. You had said, what do you wish your white friends would start doing?
Ooh.
All the things.
All the things, all the things.
I think the thing is that I want to be very conscientious about how I'm treating people and what I'm doing. And I do have Black friends, which is great, but my circle is small, and I live in a community that maybe doesn't have, it's pretty multicultural, but not necessarily on that spectrum. I'm in more of an Asian community, but anyway, yeah. So I want to be conscientious of it, and then go, hey, what am I doing that I could do more of that would be beneficial, and that would be, help my friends out there.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal question. So thank you for that. First of all, I would say learning when to speak and when to listen. I love it when my white friends are the first people on social media and somebody who we both know says something out of pocket, and they are the first ones to be like, no, actually, that's not how this works. And I've read this and I've seen this, and maybe you should think about that. Because it is exhausting to live with racial trauma, and then on top of that, to experience being re-traumatized by people you know, and in some cases love, who have not been socialized to understand the reality of race in America, and have lots of messages coming at them that tell them that these things are not true. So to the extent that my white friends speak up and do that sort of work, it means I don't have to, and I don't have to see it. And every time I see it, I see the response, and I can move on with my day. And so that means a lot to me, and it's something I've seen change over the years and increase. and over the years. I think in terms of that, and that's the speak up side, I think in terms of the be quiet side is, you know, at this point, we've had a lot of opportunities. My church community, we spend a lot of time in just in open space and in listening space, and people just being able to express, you know, how are you really doing today? You know, how is this feeling? How are you? Has this weighing on you? How is this affecting your work, your ability to function, etc. And I realize that people who are not Black, Indigenous, or people of color may not always understand that, but to not question it, to listen and to absorb and to empathize is really what I'm looking for at those moments. So knowing when to speak up, knowing when to be quiet, and then also continuing to learn. You know, it's always helpful as people continue to educate themselves around issues of race and become more conscientious in the things that they say. There's a lot that's built into our daily vocabulary that is hurtful and harmful, and the more that we can purge those things, the better we can have conversations. And then I guess I would say finally, make this your issue too. It's one thing to say, how are you doing? Which I appreciate, and you should, and checking in on me. But I'm hoping you're as torn up as I am, or at least getting there. So if you can stand back from issues of racial injustice, issues of police brutality, and you're not affected at some very deep level, then how deep is our friendship? Because, you know, the friends that I have, you know, I want them to love me and care for me as their family. And if this happened to somebody in my family, certainly there would be that full weight of emotion on me too. So just sharing and saying, yeah, I'm checking in on you, and I'm also gutted about everything that's going on. So those are the things.